It is time for an emergency edition of Final Fantasy I Randomizer. This is going to be a round 2 Swiss bracket race between Brottster and ArsonHorse, and I, for one, am quite excited. My boy Tilo should be joining us here in a minute, and we have Moist Mogwai, or as we're going to be referring to her for the rest of the evening, Mo, on our tracker tonight. And we absolutely appreciate the Speed Gaming Network for hosting this race on short notice here on Speed Gaming 4. So, I guess while we're waiting for everything to kind of get a rolling, you know. There we go. Hey, Tilo.
Hey there.
And we are off like a lightning bolt. So we have Force Black Mage tonight, and both players are immediately jumping into Corneria. And we are seeing Ice 2 in the Black Magic shop, so that's probably going to be our workhorse for the first little bit.
And of course we've got a Brack there too, so watch out, Tiamat and Kraken.
Ooh, did I see Cure 4 in the White Magic shop? Because I think I just saw Cure 4.
We did see Cure 4, but if I'm not mistaken, it's in the second slot.
No, they both brought a White Mage, it looks like, so that's not going to be an issue. Aside from keeping it out of the Red Mage's hands, that's true.
And the Knights, for that matter.
Yeah, that's right. Knight gets the 4th slot. So I think we're seeing Brottster make an immediate beeline for Temple of Fiends, where ArsonHorse is going to take a moment to kind of stock up a little bit more on supplies before he makes his way up there. So what are you kind of hoping we're going to see? Are you thinking early bridge, or are you thinking canoe and then the long gauntlet around to Provoca?
Well, it depends whether you like chat more or whether you like the runners more. If you're the runners, you want to see a floater from the king and a canoe from Sarah. If you're chat, you want to see a ruby locked floater. And so,
I'm not sure that's necessarily true about chat, but you know. It is one of those things.
We also do have Invis 2 at level 1, which which both the Knight and the Red Mage would be able to get. So that might be helpful for endgame.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, you do kind of have to think about these things early, but there are at least 3 more spell levels that we're definitely going to care about in the path, so, you know, fortunately there's not too much critical to worry about yet. It looks like Brottster reset out of the Garland fight. It must have been a little too beefy for him to handle right off the bat. But ArsonHorse's dive into the imp fighting early is paying off and letting him kind of explore Temple of Fiends a little bit more. So, are you also among the people who tend to kind of just do the king and Sarah together, or do you like to just jump up and see what the king has real quick before diving into the Temple of Fiends?
I tend to like to do both together, but I'm not shy if Garland is particularly nasty of bailing and going straight in the castle. And we have vanilla loot and our canoe.
Semi-vanilla. You know, maybe homemade vanilla or like birthday cake.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it looks like we are going on the Grand Inner Sea Tour, folks.
If you haven't watched Randomizer before and you've only played vanilla Final Fantasy, we should note that there have been a few map changes to allow some more open exploration. One of those is that there is now a little bit of land connecting the Canaria area with where the Dwarves Cave is. So with the canoe, you can actually make it all the way around the world to Provoca.
Yeah, they also made sure to add in a connection between the river and the the rivers leading to the volcano and the ice cave, so that you can make that trip. And if I'm not mistaken, did they also have to make a change to connect the ice cave to Provoca, or was that vanilla?
I do not recall. I do know that they have also added some extra ship ports to some islands that don't typically have them, just in case they want to hide the floater on one of those distant continents.
Yeah, I believe both Onrak and the Mirage Desert now have ship access. And, you know, I kind of caught out of the corner of my eye, but it looks like Brottster's front line got torn up by that garland. But he made it through, and now both players are in the process of making that long trip like we're seeing. And now we're getting a chance to see what the dwarves have at their disposal. And looks like mostly money and a helmet.
It is nice that we have some really cheap tents. There's nothing worse when you start a seed than having your only option being 400 gold cabins.
Ain't that the truth? So, they've at least got plenty of money to stock up on supplies but once they get to Elfland. Which will be handy because even though they won't necessarily be able to cast the spells they find there, if there's something you're going to want access to by the time you hit Crescent Lake, you know, it sucks to have to go back for like that level 3 nuke or something. And looking over at chat, it does seem like folks are confirming that the whole being able to take the river from the floater area all the way up to Provoca is a change. So, you know, that is just something really interesting about what they've done with the randomizer. And our dev team has worked really hard at this.
And continue to work really, really hard. The things they have in waiting in alpha right now are just insane.
And that is a stacked level 3 shop. Saber, Temper, and Ice 3.
And let's throw some heal 3 in there too. Which of those 3 are you putting on your red mage?
That is a really hard call. Like, I mean, I guess it kind of depends on what weapons you find. Like, if you've got both the Excalibur and the Sun Sword or Mosmune, I'd say that Saber will do work on your red mage. And that heal 3 is red mage lock, so it's a moot point. And there's the other 2 level 3 elemental spells and warp at level 4. So
warp is always a nice find in the early levels because that allows you to check the incentivized chest in ice when it's much less dangerous.
So yeah, this is definitely a strong level 3 and 4 out of the black magic. Level 4 white magic, a little less exciting, you know. A-Rub might be useful, and that Invis may wind up saving your butt if you can't find, you know, the white shirt anywhere and just need to stack something on your meleeer. So we see ArsonHorse is taking the river route. There are actually 2 routes you can take to get over to Crescent Lake. Going by river and going kind of along the south shore of the southern continent. South shore is actually faster if you already have the floater in hand and want to just go get that airship, but otherwise you're generally going to want to take the river. And either way, ArsonHorse is the first one of our runners to make it to Crescent Lake and is just going to jump into the level 6 white magic, has life 2, fade, and exit.
That is a stacked magic shop.
And life! Oh god!
And we've got level 6 fast as well.
And quad X, so you're not going to get a lot of mileage out of those things. But you're going to get mileage out of that bottle there. The only problem with that stacked level 6 shop, though, is just how few charges you're going to get out of 6, regardless of what class it's on.
Although it is nice for the runners to have both a white mage and a black mage instead of going, because they're more likely to have level 6 charges, usable ones, than any red mages will.
Very true. So, do you tend to also favor the fighter and 3 mages formation, or do you have a different preference?
I tend to run the fighter and 3 mages formation. I don't know that I would say I prefer it. I like to try to mix things up. I've actually surprisingly grown kind of fond of the thief.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm a little more casual of a runner of the randomizer, but I tend to also like the thief just for the ability to kind of stick them out front and, avoid a couple of encounters that otherwise would be, more of a pain to get out of.
Yeah, it's nice to have the running ability. If you've got any early black magic spells that work out really nice, they can be very useful. They can equip really good gear after a class change, and in these flags, you're pretty much guaranteed that you're going to do a class change. And then, if you don't have anything worthwhile, you can always just kill them off and run a 3-man party.
Yeah, I mean, the Dan ability of the thief is nice. I have to agree there. I don't do it because I tend to name my thief after my fiancé, but it's there. Harm 4 isn't the worst thing you can see at level 2. And let's see, we've got Bane, and that's about the only thing that anyone would care about. Maybe slow, maybe. Question in chat, what are the flags for this seed? And these are Swiss flags in the randomizer. What that means is basically all of your progression items plus the tail are incentivized and spread out over most of the kind of basic NPCs that just give you something when you talk to them. Or, require you to beat up a bunch of their goons first. NPCs that you have to give something to first still give you what they're supposed to. So Astos is going to give you the crystal, Toy is going to give you the herb, and then the Elf Prince is going to give you the key. And speaking of the crown, that's what we're going to be getting out of Bic, it looks like.
That is a frustrating situation to get the crown into, because that you now have to go take the long way around the world multiple times if you want to turn that in.
And I was looking away at when he popped into the item shop ArsonHorse did. Did we see the vendor item yet, or is that probably not on this continent?
I was actually not looking either, so I can't answer that.
Well, I'm sure the chat will bail us out / heckle us for the trouble. So we haven't seen TNT or ship yet, which makes me think that we're probably either going to see the floater or those two behind a key, because that's the kind of thing that these seeds like to do to people. Alright, and League Administrator and all-around awesome person Ich bin Maya in chat is confirming that we have not seen the vendor item yet. The vendor item obviously replacing what in the normal game would be the bottle that you buy in the caravan, except because item shops are shuffled, it can be in any item shop in the world. So ArsonHorse went ahead and made that Matoya check and is now going to circle back around the world to go turn the crown to Astos. Presumably. Might surprise us and decide to make the Marsh Cave gamble, but with this flag set, that's a hard sell.
So at this point, what are you thinking about doing? Are you thinking about going towards ice to see if you can go after the incentivized item, or do you want to go to the armory in the volcano, which is what it looks like ArsonHorse is doing?
I personally would be tempted to just suck it up and go ahead and hit up Astos. Because, you know, the floater's either going to be an ice cave, in which case you're going to want whatever you can loot out of the treasuries of the southern continent for that dive, or you're going to, you know, probably find what you need in one of those treasuries. That being said, I don't hate going to the armory because it's a little bit easier than preparing for Astos. But again, I'm also not really a runner of this game. What would you be doing in this situation?
I think that I would probably be making a dive towards the volcano. I don't actually tend to like that just personally as an early move, but in this situation, I don't think you have the spell charges to make use of the warp. And even if you do, you don't have or even if you are able to use warp to get the incentivized item, it's still going to have a really hard time getting out of the ice cave. And without the bridge going back and forth, because you take out Astos, but then you have to make this complete loop all the way back around to Matoya, and then all the way back around to the Elf Prince, and that just seems like it's not a risk I'm willing to take. I'd rather go ahead and start grinding some and potentially get some gear that can help me out. So I'm probably making the dive into the volcano.
Yeah, as soon as I opened my fat mouth, I realized, wait, there's no bridge. This is a dumb thing to do.
It's kind of sad when you're searching treasure chests hoping for a bridge.
I think that is the new picture of sadness. And is Brottster making a Peninsula power play? Because it looks like that's what he's doing.
Meanwhile, the Argoyles coming out with Fire 3 and making ArsonHorse do a reset.
Okay, hold up. You're telling me the Argoyles have something that you don't want to see, and it caused someone to wipe?
I know, it's very unusual, isn't it?
Well, speaking of things that you do want to see, there is our first ribbon.
That is really nice to see that early on, when you're especially susceptible to a lot of instant death attacks, and also when any decent spell can really cripple you.
And a Thor's hammer right next to it. Are we sure that this isn't, like, related to the Seed of the Week? Yeah, that Thor hammer is really nice early on, because that's a free lit too. And especially with Faye being level 6 as it is, we're going to want to have that offensive capability on the White Mage. Surprised that Brottster didn't just go ahead and double up on the Harm 4, but I guess he wanted to have that security of making sure his characters got out alive. So yeah. Yeah, I guess that he found an early encounter on the Peninsula of Power with these zombies, so that's helpful. And yeah, as Chad is pointing out while I was looking over at Brottster, ArsonHorse took a nasty little spill in the volcano, but he now knows what chests are worth going back for and which ones he can just kind of skip.
He keeps trying to go back for that ribbon, but the enemies are wanting to say otherwise.
Yeah, this might be a situation where you just want to do a hard reset and see if you can figure out kind of what the encounter table's doing. Try and avoid that Argyle fight to at least get that ribbon out, because that is not something you want to leave behind.
So it looks like Brott is either done or taking a temporary break from the Peninsula of Power grind. But after grinding, where would you go if you're him?
Well, you have the levels now. I think he got most of his party, with the exception of his red hat, to, I think, level 9, I saw. So he's probably in a good position to at least pick up those warp charges if he's willing to make the hike back to Elfland, or if he didn't pick it up the first time. And then make the Ice Cave gamble, or he might also opt to head for the Armory. Judging by the direction he's going, I think he's heading for Armory as well. Alright, and ArsonHorse managed to pull those treasures out and is making a beeline for the exit.
And he gets out safely with the ribbon.
Yeah, and he's not in a fantastic position with that fighter down for the moment. But he is probably heading for the same clinic that Brottster just left. So, you know, he's got that in his favor at the moment. Brottster does seem to have the level advantage right now, but ArsonHorse has a little more knowledge, and especially that, you know, maybe doing the Crown Circuit isn't the worst thing in the world with how brutal that volcano is. Split Punch in chat pointing out that Ice Cave is not a gamble unless I mean surviving it, and that is kind of what I mean there. But yeah, I feel like Ice Cave is the safer play for once. Just because those Fire 3 Argoyles are nasty and seem to be in a nasty place in the encounter table.
Yeah, it is definitely a rare occasion when you say the phrase, Ice Cave is the safer play.
Yeah, we've got Arson. Actually, it looks like both of them are doing a little bit of peed farming, trying to, you know, get their levels up. ArsonHorse because he knows he needs it, and Brottster probably just for safety. Brottster at least looks like he's probably going to be at this for a little bit longer. I'll be surprised if he goes much farther beyond, say, level 12 or 13 on his characters. That probably will be good enough for him to feel confident in making the Volcano dive.
Yeah, it's always a challenge to know quite when to stop early on, because you are going to get levels as you go further along, and so you don't want to grind too much early on. At the same time, you lose a lot of time if you wipe early, so it's always a difficult balancing act.
Also, I just want to point out I am appreciating ArsonHorse's decision to lean on Bane. Although it does appear the Peds are doing a good job of holding their breath.
Throwing in Brack as well.
Well, you know, you might as well use it if you've got it. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of be in a holding pattern here for a few minutes as both of these players, you know, kind of get their bearings, get their levels up a little bit. Now, I'm going to admit I am harboring a secret desire to see the Ice Cave also be horrifically nasty, and one of these runners decide that the sensible move is to go dive Marsh Cave.
That would definitely be entertaining. Marsh Cave doesn't get a lot of love in these seeds.
Yeah, I mean, there's almost no reason to go into Marsh, except if you just need to be doing something besides grinding. You know, looking for something, anything. You know, you're probably not going to find progression in there unless something wonky has happened, like the bridge being an Ice Cave incentivized chest. But, you know, it is something that you can occasionally run into.
Even more fun is when something is trapped behind the key-locked doors in the Marsh Cave.
You know, I felt like I was kind of being, you know, cruel for suggesting the idea of a marsh cave dive, but I think you just found a way to be even worse. And Brottster is heading back toward Elfland. I'm not sure if this is to just pick up some things that he skipped over before he started grinding, or if this is a play on the crown.
It may be both. If he saw the warp spell sitting in Elfland and knows and needs to go back for that anyway, and Astos is right there, so kind of killed two birds with one stone.
ArsonHorse, meanwhile, may be deciding to head for Ice Cave, favoring that over the Volcano. Which, again, I do not blame him in the slightest for after seeing just what it took to get 2 treasures out of there.
Yeah, I think at this point my last option is going down Volcano again. So, any option is better than that right now.
Yeah, at least until I could find, like, say, the Flame Shield or the Flame Armor, you know, or another ribbon, something to make sure that at least part of my party can survive an encounter with those Argoyles. So, yeah, here we go for ArsonHorse, finding out if this is a do-or-die situation with Ice Cave. Brottster conserving steps, it looks like. Not a bad call. And yeah, it looks like he is making the play for Astos. Going to go ahead and knock that out and probably do some digging through some of the keylock chests. You know, Astos does put him right next to the dwarf cave, and
but you only get the crystal from Astos. You still have to make your way all the way back around the world to Matoya to get the herb, and then all the way back to Elfland to get the key in order to check any of those chests.
And this is why I'm glad that you're here. Because I just jumped right to the end of that chain. But, I mean, the dwarves are still not that far from the elf prince, so, you know, I still was kind of accurate in saying that, you know, you're close to the keylock door after talking to elven royalty.
Oh, absolutely. It's actually a really nice path where all the key-locked areas make a nice little ring. So as soon as you get the key, you can just go to Astos' castle, then to Dwarf Cave, and then if you want to Temple of Fiends, and then to Canaria, and then you can decide what you want to do from there.
Alright, so Brottster now has his crystal, and he is making his way back toward wherever he's going. You know, he might make a dip into Volcano first, or he may decide to just suck it up and do the Matoya circuit. Meanwhile, ArsonHorse is going to give us our first look at what we're finding in Ice Cave. And there is Vanilla Floater at that. Ooh, and a ludicrous amount of money. And ArsonHorse does not even care what's on the bottom floor.
It's going to be a really nice early lead there for ArsonHorse now.
Oh yeah, because he's going to be able to just go grab that floater, you know, go make the same circuit Brottster's making right now, except with the advantage of just being able to fly everywhere. And then probably make up his mind from there about what to do. Because, yeah, between, you know, the Zardia Isles, all of those free keylock doors, he's gonna have a decent amount of chests to check. He probably can afford to skip those 12 chests in the bottom of Ice Cave.
Yeah, and in all honesty, if for some awful reason he would have to go back down, and I'm not exactly sure what he'd have to go back down for now that we've seen the floater, it's not that far when you're well geared.
Yeah, this is very true. But yeah, I imagine that we're not going to see much of Ice Cave again this particular seed.
It does look like Brock's going up to the Ice Cave first.
Well, that remains to be seen. He could also be heading... Oh no, you're right. He's already skipped the fork that leads to Provocus, so... You know, he is making the right call here. Question in chat if the incentive pool is maybe too shallow to... If we're assuming that progression's generally going to be found in the incentive locations. And... if I'm not mistaken, that is a deliberate choice on the part of the organizers for this marathon. Effectively, just to make sure that these seeds don't take, you know, forever.
Yeah, if you watch some of the league games this year, they could take a long time, because if you have that key progression item locked away in all these weird places, even the best runners can end up going, you know, 2.5+ hours, and with a combination of bad progression and bad monsters. And it's just, when the great players have performances like that, you don't want to see someone like me racing that.
Yeah, and, you know, on top of that, you have, as Ikman Maya pointed out, we've had some ridiculous seeds. I believe the last day of week 1 featured 2 ruby-locked floaters on the same day. The first and last races of the day both require the players to go through Titan's Tunnel after figuring out where the ruby was.
And goodness gracious, that first race, the ruby-locked floater was like the best possible thing about it. It was only worse, it was the least awful thing about it.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to go back and look at the VOD, but I have yet to hear anyone talk about that race in terms that aren't with absolute terror and reverence.
Just to put it in a little more perspective, I watched it and thought, wow, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. But it was between 2 very, very skilled players, and at the end, both of them said that was the worst seed they had ever played.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they'll both have kinder seeds this week. Brottster, though, is definitely not getting as much kindness from the Ice Cave as ArsonHorse has. He's had to reset out a couple of times after just getting into some rough encounters, but it looks like he finally found his hero run, so hopefully he'll be getting his floater here in a minute. ArsonHorse, on the other hand, looks like he's just going to go ahead and go get that Oxyel and continue... Oh! Well, there we go. There's his cube.
Max price cube.
This seed's just not being very polite, is it? And Nuke at 7. So we have Fate at 6, Nuke at 7, Max Price Cube.
Life and Life 2 at 6.
Yeah, Life and Life 2 at 6. So... I'm starting to dread the Temple of Fiends already. I don't know how our runners are feeling, but I would really be praying to see, like, an Adamant and a Mosmune sometime soon. Something where I can have 2 characters able to hit things really hard.
ArsonHorse going for some steak.
Yeah, that is going out of your way to get your steak dinner. So, as is obligatory, Tilo, Team Steak or Team Tyro?
Honestly, I'm Team Tyro. I'm probably, I just never feel like I'm able to beat them fast enough for the experience to be worth it.
Yeah, I tend to favor what I refer to as team coin flip. You know, half your party runs, half your party attacks, and you just kind of let the fates decide whether the Tyro lives or dies. Brottster, meanwhile, has decided he wants to find out what's in the bottom of the ice cave. So if there's something good down here, that may give him the ability to catch up a bit on ArsonHorse. On the bright side, though, on ArsonHorse's end, the Zardia Islands are already making that cube a little more in reach.
And we have unrunnable mages here in the ice cave.
At least it makes that level 3 warp feel just a little more worth it. Getting to skip that forced mage encounter. So aside from a few honking piles of money and an opal gauntlet, we have not really seen much value so far in the islands.
Yeah, it's really been rather disappointing.
Which again really makes me feel like this seed is going to present some difficulties in the late game. Ah, and there's a mage
staff.
Yeah, and he found a power cane as well, which, you know, is less useful since it's not a casting item, just a decent damage weapon for, you know, your black mage. But, you know, it is still something that you don't regret seeing.
And it looks like Brott is going to do a little bit of a high grind here.
Considering...
Apparently.
Okay. A very little one. With that floater, he's probably going to head on back to get his airship and then probably follow a similar track to ArsonHorse, maybe in a different order, but just hitting all these easy locations. Alright, let's see what Sarda has for us today. Watch it be the rod.
There you go, vanilla rod.
Oh, you know, as soon as I said it, it was like, oh, this is going to get me burned for witchcraft. Yeah, now, one thing that I did see ArsonHorse pick up out of the Titan Cave is that flame shield. Which does at least make facing that Gauntlet of Fire 3s in the Volcano just a little less of a dreadful thing. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, did we also see a fear at level 4 white magic?
I do not recall.
Well, it's one of those things where we at least might want to, you know, it's something that you might be tempted if, you know, the Argyle encounters turn out to be pretty rough. Because, if I'm not mistaken, and I very well could be, I think in this flag set, they do have enabled the encounter rate shuffle in terms of what formations you're going to see in a given zone. Chat pointing out, too, that we do have cheapish pro rings in Melmond, I believe. So, you know, that's something that we're probably going to see the runners come back for, because even if you're not necessarily worried about the death protection, that +8 absorb is nice.
Yeah, at just a little under 10,000, they're pretty well priced, but I'm not sure that but 10,000 is maybe too much to spend right now when you're trying to save them for that cube. I know we've gotten a lot of money, but wow, 65,000 is a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing, too, though, is you know, you don't really need that cube until you're ready to tackle Sky Castle. So you can kind of, you know, afford to make some other purchases first and then come back for the cube. Like, just having the money you already have puts you ahead of the game in that regard. So ArsonHorse has, you know, already finished his keychain. So he's probably going to make that quick loop, while Brottster is going ahead and completing the chain he started before.
And we continue to find money and little else.
Yeah, it's one of those things for as nice as, like, levels 1, 3, and 4 were, this seed otherwise is not being very generous with giving the runners anything to work with outside of, you know, what their levels will give them. Let's see if maybe the Northwest Castle will turn their fortunes around. The answer is not really. But we got dwarves coming, so we still got a chance.
Funny thing is, just when I play, I feel like I never get anything from the Dwarf Cave but money. So that would be interesting.
I mean, I think it is one of those things where statistically you're going to see gold. And there's, you know, just a lot of chests. But, you know, I don't think that silver bracelet is unwelcome with all the mages. And a gold bracelet.
And a light axe is a nice weapon.
And there's some flame armor, so...
Now we're talking.
Yeah, I feel like this might be enough protection to, I don't know, probably not rethink the Volcano, but at least, you know, if it comes down to having to do Volcano, I feel like that makes it a little less painful to think about. Discarding that falchion for the rapier is an interesting move. Or not, yeah. Because if I'm not mistaken, the falchion is a better sword than the rapier.
I believe you are correct in that. It's not entirely up on my low-level sword attacks, but yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you know, with your red mage, you're probably not going to be swinging too much, especially with a low-level sword, but it's still an interesting decision. Yeah, and I suspect we're likely going to see ArsonHorse and Brottster make the swing up to Temple of Fiends after this check those 3 chests too. Just because of the, you know, real lack of much of anything outside of, you know, some decent armor and weapons. But, you know, as is tradition, the runner's immediately going to make a liar out of me.
So we are down to our 2 remaining incentivized items, being the slab and the tail. Well, it looks like ArsonHorse is going for ordeals now, so may it's interesting because if you find the slab, the question you have is, do you even bother? In this case, if you find the slab in ordeals, do you bother going to Waterfall for the tail? That one's probably you do. The other way goes around though. If you find the slab in Waterfall, do you decide to go to ordeals for the tail?
I would be inclined to go hunting the tail with what we've seen so far, because all of your heavy-hitting spells are more or less, you know, 2 or 3 shots of it. You're going to need that melee offense, and, you know, unless you luck into a Mosmune, you're going to need to class change just to be able to equip pretty much any endgame sword.
Yeah, and of course at the rate they're going, you probably need to check all the chests in both those locations anyway.
See, we got ArsonHorse trying to burn off an encounter before heading in. Now, he does have a good number of warp charges, so this maze shouldn't be too bad. pillows, of course, being randomized in this flag set, because who wants to actually know where they're going? So Brottster, seeing that incredibly valuable cube and having done a little more exploration before heading up here to Gaia, goes ahead and just makes his cube purchase. ArsonHorse will, be making his way back around there, probably right before diving into Mirage. And so far, it looks like we're mostly seeing money out of ordeals and the tail. So Slab is going to be at Waterfall.
Vanilla rod, vanilla tail, almost vanilla loot.
Yeah, this is definitely something.
And vanilla floater.
Oh yeah, you're right, and vanilla floater. So, does that mean we have to start referring to whoever rolled this seed as Vanilla Ice?
Boo.
I'll be here all night, folks. Make sure to tip your speed gaming. See, I'm saying I'll be here all night, but hopefully we won't be here all night.
Ideally, that would be the case.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to find out the answer to your quandary here in a minute, Tilo, once Brottster picks up what we assume to be the slab. Does he also make the ordeals dive, or does he start clearing out dungeons? And Lynn the Cat in chat, one of our Ruby-locked floater runners who suffered through the seed where that was the good news, is currently having to look away from this waterfall cave.
If I recall correctly, there were 6 or 7 dives into waterfall in that seed.
I can believe it. Alright, so ArsonHorse looks like he's going to make another crack at Volcano before he even goes and gets that class change going. Which I guess it makes sense. He doesn't really have anything that he could take advantage of with the class change yet.
Yeah, I think the only thing I've seen, or can recall, that's class locked would be the opal helmet, and even at that, you'd rather have the ribbon.
Yeah. Although I think he's got the ribbon strapped to either his red mage or his white mage at this point. Looks like his red mage. Never mind! I just need to stop saying things about what ArsonHorse is doing because, he keeps immediately shaking things up. Alright, and there is our slab. So, it looks like, by and large, we have all of our progression figured out at least. Now the only problem is surviving everything to use it. So, Tilo, what would you consider to be the bare minimum weapon you dig up before you say, okay, I just need to stop digging and go and just, man mode the Temple of Fiends?
That's always a hard decision to make, and it's so heavily dependent upon what else is out there. Like they've got a level 6 fast, so that may make me rely on something a little stronger, depending upon what charges I'm going to have. As we say that, we see a Vorpal Sword. That might be enough to go down with. It's heavily dependent upon the spells. I tend to, at this point... Oh, wow, now we are just hitting the...
Yeah, that was, in the course of 3 rooms, the Vorpal Sword, the Aegis Shield, and the White Shirt.
But in general, I tend to, at this point when it's just go mode in the dungeons, is take my chances and just get the free or semi-free chests, the ones you don't really have to go much out of your way for, except for the Volcano, which I tend to full clear everything but the 2nd floor.
Yeah, you know, outside of the nasty armor, it looks like Volcano has been fairly friendly. You know, that might just come down to how many lava tiles are outside, or in the rest of the Volcano.
If you're not aware, those of you watching, when you step on the damage-dealing tiles, like the lava tiles, it does not increase your step counter, so you cannot get into an encounter on those tiles, and you aren't getting closer to an encounter while you're on those tiles.
And it looks like we've got some unrunnable Gur sharks over in the Sea Shrine.
As far as unrunnables go, that's not too awful, because they are pretty nice with the experience.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not something you're going to be too upset about seeing. So yeah, I'd say that ArsonHorse definitely has a bit of an advantage right now, just having an endgame sword. You know, I'm sure that he definitely doesn't want to go into Temple of Fiends with 1 ribbon and a Vorpal Sword as his arsenal, but, you know, it's at least something. That being said, it looks like Carrie did not want to play nice with his red mage.
Will say it's an interesting decision to me for Brott going straight into water, the Sea Shrine of all places, since that to me feels like it's usually the most dangerous, and doing that before going after the tail. I was going to say that he leaves Sea Shrine.
Yeah, he may have just wanted to check some quick chests there, you know, maybe get a little extra experience from those high-value enemies. But ArsonHorse squeaks out a win against Carrie, getting some extra experience on his fighter and white mage, which admittedly are probably the 2 characters he's going to want to kind of be up there in levels.
Yeah, the red mage and black mage aren't really offering a whole lot at this point.
Well, with that level 7 nuke, you know, anything that has any kind of elemental resistance, you're leaning on that fighter to take care of. And they're mostly good for buffing that fighter up in case that, you know, elemental tank also has some kind of high absorb or high evade. Question from chat, was that with the LOL axe? I believe it was. ArsonHorse stuck the light axe on his fighter, and I don't believe we've seen anything that would dislodge it yet. Although, I'm sure he's probably going to be making that class change sometime soon, especially now that he knows he has that Vorpal. And that Aegis shield waiting for him. Okay, you were talking about the Great Axe. No, I believe he has the Light Axe on his fighter right now. So, you know, not the worst axe. And it's Frozondo making a point in chat that at least the Red Wizard can cast Life too, and I believe that it is in a Red Wizard slot at level 6, so that is a good point. So, you know, it's one of those things he's got they've at least got a little bit of insurance, but it's still definitely not a great spell situation.
You could do some damage if you really wanted to grind a lot, but that's always a very high risk in these rounds.
Alright, so we're getting some observations in chat about the state of the art in level 6 magic. So, yeah, the fastest Black Mage is going to be Black Wizard only, but the life spells are going to be accessible to the Red Wizard. So, Red Wizard at least is going to get a little more firepower out of those level 6 spells. Meanwhile, we've got Zardia in chat plugging our various polls, including which party the bonus stream is going to be engaging with. It is going to be a single clash challenge like the last tournament, and it is quite likely, and Thief is off the table, so get in there and vote for what you want someone to suffer through. Spoiler, it's probably going to be Black Mage because 4 Black Mages is pain. In addition, we are going to also be voting for what is the best Night Sword and what is the best Lizard. So be sure to vote in those polls if you haven't already, and if you have voted in those polls, don't vote again. That is subverting democracy.
As Demerin astutely pointed out in chat, Brott did not go for those extra chests in Volcano that ArsonHorse did, and so he is going to be without one of the ribbons.
Ooh, and that's the only ribbon we've seen so far, so that could be a problem. Now, he may, at least luck out and pick up dragon armor somewhere along the line, because I did see him grab the Aegis shield. So, he may be able to piece together a set of equipment that keeps his fighter mostly safe. And if I'm not mistaken, it looks like Brott did die, and so he's going to have to re-dive into Volcano. Pretty much just skipping out on that rather anemic armory on the way down. But he is doubling back for the Vorpal and the Aegis shield, and I can't really blame him. Meanwhile, we've got ArsonHorse going to collect his slab, and while that does put him in go mode, I will be shocked if he doesn't do a little more digging as he's heading through these other dungeons.
Wow, these bulls are not fun. They lit 3 and sleep, stun. Not a great combination. Brott has to take another reset.
Question chat, the runners don't hear commentary or know what the others have found. And that is correct. Both runners are in a complete information bubble. They only things that they know are when when the ghost signal was given, and when their opponent hits .done if they finish first. So ArsonHorse, I assume, is going to go ahead and make a Sea Shrine dive. He's right here. You don't want to have to row back to Onrak. You already have everything you need. The real question is going to be whether or not he decides to hit the mermaid side of things.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest question out there.
And like I said,
there's a lot of chests there, but it's a nasty place to go through, and the chests are very spread out.
I will be surprised, though, if we don't see it, though, because again, you can get through the endgame with the Vorpal Sword, but you don't want to unless you're Czar.
ArsonHorse pulling out the Bane strats again.
I mean, as nasty as these bulls are, I cannot blame him. Of course, right now he has... I apologize for laughing, Brott, but this is kind of ridiculous. Like, bull is a very apt description of these enemies right now.
And Brott nopes out of there.
Yeah, I, again, cannot blame him. Like, ArsonHorse, it looks like just dodged a bullet when dealing with Volcano on the way down. Did Brott go and get the slab translated? The tracker is showing no, and I'm apt to believe her.
I don't recall having seen it.
Well, we may be getting to see a little bit of Lupa love here in a few minutes, folks. Oh, and there it is. That is not a good feeling. Because you have to make that walk back, and you have to go to Melman, and then you have to come back again.
Yeah, it's never a good feeling, and it's something every runner does once. At least.
Once.
Like, we've already seen in this one, there's always that one thing that people forget. We've seen a couple of scenes where people didn't remember to talk to sages, remember to talk to the pirates after defeating them, forgot about the caravan, the key enemy in the caravan. There's always just those few little things that you make that mistake once, but then you don't make it again.
Yeah, and we have a Sun Sword sighting over on ArsonHorse's side, so he at least has a little more melee firepower now. Which, you know, as a fan of the Red Mage, I am completely happy always to see the Sun Sword. That being said, it looks like ArsonHorse is just going to go ahead and go pick a fight with Kraken.
He just went with the free chests in the shrine and on his way. So that may give us an insight into what he's thinking for the rest of the race. Are we just going to see? Are we going to see him go out of the way for any chests, or is he just going to kind of pick up whatever happens to be by his side on the rest of the way?
Yeah. The return trip to Melman at least gives Brottster a chance to get pro rings on all of his characters, giving just a little more resilience. So yeah, the thing I'm kind of waiting to see right now is, assuming Kraken doesn't turn out to be more than ArsonHorse's bargained for, you know, whether he's going to dive back in to hit the mermaid side, or, as you said, if he feels like he is in good enough shape to finish the seed out. Which
I think both of them have had a hard enough time in Volcano that that may feel like they're really far behind.
Yeah, and it is also one of those things. ArsonHorse, you know, definitely not the favorite in this race. Although he is doing a fantastic job of acquitting himself. But, you know, that may also be playing into his decision-making, thinking, you know, he can't afford to necessarily spend too much time digging to keep pace with Brottster. And we see that Kraken is not playing around with the melee attacks.
And down goes White Wizard.
Ooh, and even with all that temper stacked on the knight, that is not a lot of damage. Like, he should still be able to take down Kraken, but, you know, he may not necessarily get out of here with more than 2 party members alive, if Kraken is not nice. But there we go. Alright, so ArsonHorse lights his second orb. And at least is picking that White Wizard up, and we're... Alright, yeah, we are going to probably see a mermaid check out of... Well, I'm going to stop talking here for a moment. Nope! ArsonHorse is just going to go for it, so... If I had to guess, he probably feels like he is, with that Vorpal sword, probably just going to need to gun it to the end.
He may want to do what Brott's doing right now and head towards the Mirage Tower. There's a large amount of chests in a very small area there, and so if you want one last gasp at getting a great weapon, I think that's your best chance to get, or to take a lot of chances fast.
Yeah, and ArsonHorse is definitely remembering to get that slab translated before heading north. So he should not be too far behind Brottster and heading into Mirage. The big difference being, though, that... Really, ArsonHorse? Really? You're just going to keep doing this? I'm going to predict one of these right, but on the bright side, Brottster did just find the dragon armor. So, even without that ribbon from Volcano, he at least has a decent balance of elemental protection on his knight.
It's also significant to note that Brottster has never gone to ordeals to get the tail, and you start to wonder at this point if he has any plans on doing that.
That dragon armor may change his mind, and you're right, I forgot he does not have a knight. But there's a good chance ArsonHorse is going to find that, unless he just decides to go mode right past it. We have a question in chat if there's any chance of a recap, and Tilo, you want to take a lead on that?
Sure. We started off with the king had the loot, and the princess had the canoe, and that took us to the sages who had the bottle, and the pirates who had the crown. Then the floater was in its vanilla location in Ice Cave. Sarda had the vanilla rod, and Ordeals had the vanilla tail. The slab was with the robot and the waterfall, and the cube was at Gaia for max price. We have found one ribbon. Well, ArsonHorse has found one ribbon in Volcano in chests that Brott did not search. We had a particularly nasty Volcano that caused both of our players to wipe many times. Anything I'm missing?
I mean, other than that, Brottster has yet to light his first orb, while ArsonHorse has already cleared water and fire off the docket, and is making a dive for Lich.
It definitely seems like ArsonHorse has a significant lead, but you never know what the Temple of Fiends Revisited is got in store.
Yeah, especially with the way the Seed's magic is shaped up. We have Nuke at level 7 and Fade at level 6 sharing charges with both of the life spells. So it's one of those things where you're definitely going to be leaning on your melee going into Temple of Fiends, and unfortunately, Vorpal and Sun are the best swords we've seen so far. So, you know, on the bright side, that does mean both Red Mage and Knight can do some damage, but it is definitely not the ideal position to be going into Temple of Fiends Revisited with, so we could very well see that be the great equalizer it is tonight. But there's a second ribbon. So, the bright side is, Brottster is almost guaranteed to pick that one up. Like, I cannot imagine him feeling so rushed that he does not even bother checking the ruby chest.
ArsonHorse skipping the chests on the 4th floor of Earth Cave. Those are always one of the trickiest ones, because they are more out of your way than most of the other chests you would check, but because there's 5 of them right there and it's not so far away, it's a really hard decision to decide whether or not to go after them, especially when you're still looking for a slightly improved weapon.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily hate that move. ArsonHorse is aware that there is some more chests to be dug out of the air dungeon, but we do have Defense Sword popping up over on Brottster's side. And considering the difficulty he had getting Vorpal out of Volcano, I'm sure he feels glad to see that.
It's also in those side rooms in the Sky Castle, which it's possible ArsonHorse may skip, so that could work in Brock's favor. And on the other side, we have the Power Bomb. So if ArsonHorse decides to just run through that 1st floor of Sky Castle, it could really put him at a disadvantage.
And I will be kind of surprised if he doesn't do exactly that. You know, it's one of those things. He feels it seems like he feels confident with the gear he has. He's not going to check, you know, non-free chests by and large. But you know, he's made a liar out of me enough tonight to where I'm not going to be shocked if it turns out he does decide to check those chests.
Now he's going to go and full clear the 2nd floor of Sky Palace on us. Just to continue to prove us wrong.
Yep. Brottster does skip over the, you know, hub and spokes floor on Sky Castle, but does look like he's going to dive the 3rd floor somewhat. It is a very interesting pattern seeing what these runners consider worth their time versus worth skipping out on. And like I said, ArsonHorse goes ahead and grabs that cube, you know, right before heading into Mirage, and he's going to go ahead and grab his chime after this. So, with only one fiend left to go, he's going to be, you know, heading that way soonishly. So, here's the thing I'm wondering on Brottster's end. He's found a lot of great equipment to put on a knight, but he does not have a knight. But he has to be figuring the tail is at Ordeals. So, does he make that Ordeals dive? Or does he just, count on that power bonk to carry him through?
And I think that now that he's found the defense sword and the power bonk, he may already be feeling behind due to all the difficulties in Volcano, and so I think there's a real chance that he might try to do this without the class change.
That is very true. Now, if he does find the Sun Sword in Sea Shrine, you know, it's not typically what you think of as an in-game sword, but it is a respectably strong sword, especially in a knight's hands. And with the power bonk, he may just sit back and go, you know, this may be the best thing the seed's going to give me without digging, and I feel behind. Meanwhile, Will Cleosis giving us an update on another match going on right now. We have Alliger Brath with 4 orbs lit, and Triton GL with 3. So, you know, if you want to fire up those multi-twitches and try to catch the action over there, then, you know, it's not going to hurt our feelings too much, but at the same time, we hope you stick around with us, because this Temple of Fiends revisit is going to be interesting to watch, I feel like.
Definitely. Brock did manage to get through the Bridge of Destiny without a War Mech sighting. Let's see what Tiamat's got in store for him.
Alright, starting off by tempering up his fighter. and power bonking. Getting that first layer of Invis 2 up.
This is a random side note as we see the ship there. That would have also been a very useful thing to find early on to get through.
That thunder! Shots. Fortunately, he's able to heal 3 to kind of pick up his party a little bit, but Brottster getting thundered there cannot make him feel good. And I believe we are seeing a little bit of Bane potentially coming out soon. Now lit 3, but at least Brottster looks like he's doing respectable damage on that fighter, so he's probably going to start swinging and hoping for the best. This Tiamat fight, though, is showing... there we go. So, there's Brottster's first orb. Meanwhile, while he was dealing with that, ArsonHorse did pick up that dragon armor for his knight. Dragon armor, of course, giving resistance to the 3 basic elements. In combination with the Aegis shield, that gives him, pretty respectable coverage, you would say, for most of the stuff you're going to run into.
Yeah, it definitely takes care of most of what you would be worried about.
And it does look like Brottster is going to go after that tail, which, again, I can't blame him for. He's found a lot of excellent equipment that you cannot put on the base classes. And Will Bloodworth in chat confirming that between the Dragon, the Aegis, and the Programming, you're going to have 5 of the 8 elements in the game covered. And the 3 that are left, I don't believe are terribly common. So, you know, you have a pretty respectable chance with your knight of getting through without a ribbon. So, you know, it just means that Brottster won't be at too big a disadvantage, having skipped that ribbon in Volcano. Flip side to that, though, is ArsonHorse is going to have all of that +2 ribbons as a possibility. Demarine pointing out in chat that ArsonHorse is currently digging, and digging Mirage Tower was not something I think anyone's surprised by. If he digs the first floor of Sky Castle, that I think is something that's going to be interesting, because that's not normally something that you're inclined to dig.
Yeah, typically in my routing, it's exactly that. I will dive those first 2 floors on Mirage, but then, unless I'm really hurting, I will not take anything but those 4 chests on the 3rd floor of Sky Castle.
This Blue D's giving ArsonHorse just a little bit of trouble.
Pulling out the Brack strats on the ArsonHorse. Or not ArsonHorse, on the Blue Dragon. Interesting.
But it goes down in the 2nd round of attacks, so...
And now for the moment of truth.
Yeah. Just as a reminder, both defense and power bonk are on this floor, 1 on each side. So if ArsonHorse just heads straight up, he will be missing out on both of those. And he is at least going to be picking up his power gauntlet.
Faking us out with that 1 false step, too.
And Brott, meanwhile, is grabbing his tail. So he'll at least have his class upgrades soon and be able to take advantage of all that equipment he's found.
It is such a nice feeling when you're getting this close to the end and having almost no treasure chests left to check, to find one of those key items you've been looking for.
And he's about to grab the other one. Alright, so that evens up ArsonHorse and Brottster, which is not fantastic news for Brottster. Like, he's definitely going to want Temple of Fiends Revisited to be a bit of a pain, and for RNGesus to be on his side. But, you know, it is one of those things. He is experienced with this game. He does, you know, by and large know where he needs to go at this point. He could still definitely come back. It's just a question of sort of what he's comfortable with versus what ArsonHorse is comfortable with. Because, again, Vorpal and Defense are kind of the minimum for what you want to see going into Temple of Fiends Revisited. But that doesn't necessarily mean a given runner is comfortable relying on those in Temple of Fiends Revisited. So we may see ArsonHorse decide to double back to the Water Shrine and check Mermaids for you know, one of those more powerful swords. He may decide to level grind a little bit more to make the most of what he's got. There is still plenty of room for Brottster to come back here right now, but he is definitely at a disadvantage at this exact moment. Yeah, and that is something else chat's pointing out. Brottster has not even picked up his first ribbon yet. He missed the ribbon chest in Volcano. There is at least one ribbon chest that is in his direct path here in Earth Cave, though. He will be passing by the Ruby chest, and Ruby chest does have a ribbon as well. So he at least will have something he can slap on his knight to give him some defense.
It really is a tough decision that ArsonHorse is going to have coming up on to whether or not to spend the next portion of his time grinding or searching chests in less lucrative areas.
Yep. ArsonHorse, meanwhile, is on the Bridge of Destiny, getting fire-two'd by airs because, you know, fire tornadoes make sense.
That's what Randomizer is all about.
Yeah, chat pointing out that, you know, Vorpal and 2 ribbons is definitely winnable. And, you know, it is one of those things, based on how he's been performing tonight, I think ArsonHorse is likely to go for it with Vorpal and 2 ribbons. But it is still one of those things where, you know, I have to wonder if there is that itsy-bitsy seed of doubt, though. But unfortunately, we do not have a Warmech sighting.
One other side thing to note is that that's also working in ArsonHorse's favor is not only, well, does Brott now only have just 1 ribbon, but also I don't believe we've seen Wall, and so that's going to put that any other alternative to ribbon out of the question as well.
I believe you're right. I don't think we've seen Wall. I would have to assume it was either in Onrak or Lefane. Or maybe those back shops in Gaia. Yeah, Split Punch continuing to correct the commentators. Glare. But yeah, I did forget that he does also have plenty of buffs at his disposal, so we are probably going to see ArsonHorse go ahead and make that attempt. But, you know, I'm trying to keep things exciting for the crowd at home, guys!
Even with all of that, it only takes carry with nuke to, you have to have enough time to build up those, to use those buffs, and a Fiend with Nuke and Nuclear can end all that buffing pretty quickly.
Right, so if I'm not mistaken, ArsonHorse is hovering somewhere in the 1920 range right now, which is, a good enough point to start attempting Temple of Fiends.
Looks to me like he's probably grinding based upon the fact that he's taking these Gas Dragon fights. I'm assuming that...
And using Fade.
Yeah.
Because, again, Fade is sharing a spell slot with Life. Meanwhile, Brottster takes down his second Fiend, lighting his Earth Orb, so he is probably about to make a beeline for the Volcano.
Getting his revenge.
And in this brief lull, we would like to update you on the other match happening right now. We have a Chaos fight going on. Ali Gerbrap making his first attempt. I assume first attempt. ArsonHorse checking his validation chests as Alliger Barap takes out his Chaos fight. Putting him in the 1-1 bracket and bumping Trenton GL down to the 0-2. ArsonHorse, meanwhile, has hopped out. Or did he take a wipe? I would be surprised if he took a wipe with his setup.
He worked out.
Alright. So he is currently just trying to get himself a hero run to dive for the Lich 2 fight. Brottster having a much safer time with this Temple of Fiends, not Temple of Fiends, with this Volcano. At the very least, it doesn't look like he's under too much pressure now that he's got some more levels and some better gear under his belt.
And it's amazing what a few levels and a little bit of gear will do to make something that was really awful be pretty easy.
There's that unrunnable mage formation. Brottster's not even going to bother with the dragon chest. He is heading straight for carry. So, it's one of those things. If there is any trolliness in this Temple of Fiends Revisited, this could very quickly equalize. So here we see Phantom again, and now we don't see Phantom again. Alright, so the question is he going to actually make his attempt on Lich this time around? And I'm apt to agree with Will Cleosis in chat. He is definitely preparing as though he's making his dive this time around.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, he was fighting those mages because they were unrunnable.
Yeah, but he's past that problem, and I don't really recall there being a lot of nasty unrunnables in the Fiend dungeons, so this may wind up being a relatively safe, in terms of just not having to take a lot of fights, Temple of Fiends.
Did we ever see any waters in the Sea Shrine?
I do not recall if we did.
It always feels like to me that waters always have something really, really nasty.
I mean, as long as the Argoyles aren't hanging out on the fire floor, I think ArsonHorse probably won't see too much that bothers him. And I don't know the encounter tables well enough to know if that's a possibility, seeing the Argoyles on the fire floor. Oof, and there's nuclear. Everyone manages to survive it, but some of them survive it with a little more pain than others. And I believe that there's a nope in chat on the subject of Argoyles on the fire floor, so yeah, ArsonHorse shouldn't have too much to worry about there. On the bright side, that's one nuclear we don't have to worry about seeing again.
Unfortunately, if I'm not mistaken, there is a second nuclear plus a nuke still hiding in there somewhere.
A question in chat about Luigi's Mansion. I believe that is over on Speed Gaming 2. And, you know, I'll just want to take this moment to, again, thank our partners at Speed Gaming for hosting not only this match, but hosting it more or less on short notice. We appreciate all they do to support this tournament, and, you know, make sure to follow the Speed Gaming channels. Feel free to subscribe, throw cheers their way, you know, whatever strikes your fancy. Meanwhile, we've got Carry 2 up on ArsonHorse's screen. Who I believe, if I'm not mistaken, threw at a Cure 4. Tilo, were you looking?
I did not see. I was too busy noticing what it looked like a Brack from his Red Mage.
Well, doesn't look like she's nuked them yet, so we got that going for him. All right, Carry 2 down. So now we get to the Great Gatekeeper.
Yeah, it seems like very frequently that Kraken 2 is the biggest challenge in Topher here, rather than Chaos.
Well, it's that combination of having plenty of swings and plenty of health, and just generally being a very rude pile of tentacles. Alright, so we've got ArsonHorse at level 21 all around. Going ahead and putting his meat shields, I mean valued party members who are totally made of paper, there in the front. Alright, deciding to go defensive his first turn. Get a little bit more defense on himself, so he's about halfway now to having all the evade that he's going to need to keep his fighter alive, at least in the face of physical attacks. And he's going to go ahead and start power bonking and get those other two Invis 2s up to kind of get his evasion where he wants it to be. Oh, hey, look,
And
there's that nuke!
Got nuke.
Oh, that is not pleasant at all.
And everyone down but the fighter.
And the fighter does not have
And
access to
there's
life.
a Cure 4.
Well, at least it came out before the swinging really started. So, this is going to be... Oh! And there's Nuke again!
So let's see what this fighter can do with the defense sword and the power bonk.
And the
That's not all
Vorpal,
it was.
and... Yeah, this just got exciting, folks, because ArsonHorse still has to make it through Tiamat 2, which is very rarely a pleasant experience, and then still has to deal with Chaos. Now, there is a nuclear and at least one nuke out of the pool, so he's at least got that in his favor.
And Cure 4 out as well.
That's very true. So, for all of you folks who've been down talking the Vorpal lately, you know, this is perhaps why people love it so much. Because this is the time when the Vorpal proves itself. Or doesn't. You know, this is kind of also the situation where things can go south in a hurry. Like, all it takes is Tiamat having any kind of nasty spell and ArsonHorse is going to be in trouble.
At this point, it doesn't even have to be that nasty. He could probably whittle him away with a couple of lit 2s.
Yeah, I mean, it's still one of those things where the ribbon at least gives him a little bit of a cushion on anything but, like, the level 3 spells, but, you know, he's still just going to have to, you know, just pray that Tiamat's AI doesn't throw out anything too late. And it doesn't. With 66 HP, ArsonHorse is through Tiamat 2, as Brottster is making his way to Temple of Fiends. So, if Chaos is too much for this solo knight to handle, we have a race. Alright, hero run to Chaos, and here it is, ladies and gentlemen. If you want an exciting race, you're pulling for the big horn man. And if you are just wanting to see the Dark Horse come out and take this, then... I just realized he's ArsonHorse and he's a Dark Horse. Probably ruined the mood there a little bit. But yeah.
He never did go back with his knight to get the Cure 4 charges, did he?
I do not believe he did. But honestly, I'm not sure that he'd even really want to. But he's got that defense up, he's got the power bonk going. You know, he just needs to count on Chaos not having a critical hit. Oh dear. If there is anything... And there's the wipe.
And suddenly Brott takes the lead.
Alright, folks! Get yourself ready. We've got some bonus race action for you. Because I cannot imagine Brottster is going to have a much friendlier Temple of Fiends. He's got that nuclear... And that nuclear is fairly early in Lich's script, too, so... You know, he's going to have to deal with that. He's going to have to deal with that absolutely savage Kraken. And then, you know, then there's Chaos still. And these Chimeras and Chimeras are not being very nice right off the bat.
ArsonHorse does have the benefit of knowing what's coming, but I'm not sure what benefit knowing Nuke is coming actually gets you.
You can, you know, maybe try and make some quick offerings to the dice gods before you go down. You know, for some low rolls or something. I don't know. However, ArsonHorse seems to have gotten a slightly friendlier encounter rate on the first few floors, so he is not lagging too far behind Brottster. So this is probably going to be a photo finish if both of these guys can make it to Chaos in decent shape.
Really amazing what one nasty Topher can do. ArsonHorse was at 1.3 orbs up on Brott.
Yeah, and I mean, that there's a reason it's called the Great Equalizer. Because you never know what it's going to throw at you, and all it takes is for your life casters to go down, and suddenly you are having to apply everything you've ever learned about solo strats. We're all hoping for the 3-second finish there, Sforzondo. I was actually on the tracker for the last 3-second finish we had, so if I manage to be on the support team for 2 separate 3-second races, I don't know if that means they're never going to let me be involved with another race, or if I'm going to be called upon to be involved with more races.
It depends. I'm going up against Salty Fry this week, so if you could get me within 3 seconds with him, I'd really appreciate it.
Well, let's see what happens here, and I'll see what I can do. Either way, though, I think it does show just how much you really cannot ever count anyone out in these races. Just because, again, Temple of Fiends is going to put up a fight every single time you go into it, no matter what you've done in the seed prior. And, you know, even if you are 3 dungeons behind, if you're not looking through chests, those Fiend dungeons you can just fly through if you know where you're going. That being said, we have our racers high-fiving at carry 2. Brottster got in here first, so he'll probably be the first one out, although losing his red mage does reduce his damage output a little bit.
Worth noting that Brott already had to use up 1 life too, and now with the red mage down, he's going to have to use another one. And so, if that nuke from Kraken takes up for many people, he may be having to solo his final fights as well.
Well, we're about to find out here. He does get his red mage back on his feet. He's the first one through carry, although ArsonHorse is maybe less than 20 seconds behind. Doing their quick heal potion shuffle, and they both run into the same water encounter, and what had to have been almost the same step. So these two may be on the same encounter table even. Or same part of the encounter table, rather. And, as is tradition, ArsonHorse immediately makes a liar out of me. Brottster manages to get to the Kraken first, although ArsonHorse is right behind him. Both of them making sure that they have plenty of soft shields up front. Brottster putting his fighter in the number 3 slot, which is a slightly better position to put something in if you don't want it getting hit. Mo, we do not encourage Kraken to hug anyone. That is, Kraken hugs are bad. I know tentacles can look cuddly, but...
Wow, 800 damage from the Vorpal over there.
Yeah, the Vorpal does work. But, you know, it is a very temperamental sword, as we see in 181 out of a Vorpal swing. Alright, so ArsonHorse has made it through Kraken 2 with a much better shape to his party this time.
Meanwhile, Brock gets that taste of nuke.
But his party manages to stay upright for it. So he should only be a turn or 2 away from clearing Kraken out and getting down to Tiamat. And going for the Brack with that Black Mage. That is... Holy crap! Alright then. So, Brottster manages to keep his party upright, and is going to have to lose a little time healing up, but he's going to be right on ArsonHorse's heels heading into Tiamat 2 and then Chaos.
Chat showing some love for the Brack strats.
Who doesn't love the Brack strats? Come on! And Brottster is just going to run from everything. Like any sensible human being at this point. All right, and he is into his Tiamat 2 fight. ArsonHorse has been at this for a little bit, so it may very well be that we're not going to be seeing this, you know, both players in the same fight for too much longer, but we have that. So 377 out of ArsonHorse with his Vorpal. While his Red Mage and White Mage are helping. Yeah, he is looking for that critical hit with the Vorpal, because otherwise this is not... You do not want to have a knockdown, drag-out fight with Tiamat 2. And if he knew what kind of position he was in, he definitely wouldn't. Alright, there we are. Tiamat 2 down. And ArsonHorse is probably hoping for another hero run to Chaos's floor, as Brottster continues his struggle with Tiamat, having already lost his Red Mage.
And Brottster pulling out the Braxtrax again. Oh, but not getting a chance to see it.
Yeah, I mean, if he knew what he's looking at, he would not be complaining right now. So yeah, we are looking at both players getting to Chaos at about the same time, and it's going to come down to who hits more critical hits on that Vorpal sword. Like, all Brottster needs is to get a couple critical hits that ArsonHorse doesn't, and he can snipe this race. Tilo, this is probably a bad time to ask, but you are watching the SRL chat, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Okay, good. I am not a racer of this game, and so I do not generally think to jump into SRL. So I tend to forget to make sure my fellow commentator is keeping an eye on that. And ArsonHorse is already out his Black Mage. And it looks like Brottster may be not too far behind on that front. Ooh, and Brottster pulling out the drink strats just to kind of keep feeding health into his fighter. And with that, he is now a fighter Red Mage show on Brottster's side. White Mage still up for ArsonHorse, as both of them just keep buffing. And peppering spells where they can against Chaos.
Chaos rubs out the red wizard for Brott.
Alright, so this is it. Brottster counting on that YOLO fighter to carry the day. So am I crazy, or does it look like Brott may have gotten... Never mind. I was about to question if...
And there we go. The ArsonHorse finishes with an official SRL race time of 1 hour 48 minutes and 3 seconds. Brott finishing with an official SRL race time of 1 minute 48 seconds, or 1 hour 48 minutes and 8 seconds. So a 5-second difference between the two.
Okay. Okay then. Holy cow. That was a finish. Alright, let's see if we can get both of these folks in here. Because holy cow. That was a thing.
That was a race for the ages.
So if you've never watched Final Fantasy Randomizer before, yes, every race is exactly like this. You just need to watch every single one of these from now on. I am definitely not lying to you right now. So yeah.
That was an absolute pleasure to watch.
What a finish! Good lord. Gonna see if we can look into getting these guys in here. So, just give me a moment to see about getting them here so we can have a nice little discussion about, holy crap, I cannot believe that just happened again.
I think this would be a good time to suggest that you follow our two runners who just gave us an amazing show. Still working on trying to get them in for the interview here.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that'll just take a few minutes, but I imagine that they're both taking a long, deep breath because holy cow. But I mean, that really just goes to show you.
Brottster indicating in the SRL chat that his intent was actually to skip Tail, but the Dragon Armor and Vorpal forced him to stay.
Yeah. I kind of need a second to catch my breath after that too, so I do not blame their being slow. All right, I see ArsonHorse is sitting down in the setup room, so hopefully he'll be hopping up here in a minute. And we are getting... That is a very lovely desktop on Brottster's part, and hopefully it indicates he's on his way. Speaking of on his way, ArsonHorse and Brottster, GG to both of you. Holy crap.
Yeah, I just want to say very good game to Brottster. I was after that first chaos wipe, I knew he was right there, so got a little lucky.
Good game, man.
All right.
That was really insane. Great game, dude.
Before either of you say anything, do y'all want to speculate on who got to Temple of Fiends first and where the other runner was when you got to Temple of Fiends first?
I'm guessing Brottster got to Temple of Fiends first, but went out to get Tail and finish that up.
I'm going to say that you got to Temple of Fiends first, because I was, like, being a ridiculous person for the first, like, hour plus.
ArsonHorse, when you hit Temple of Fiends Revisited for the first time, Brottster had lit one orb.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, no, that was an insane race. Brottster with the comeback and ArsonHorse with just fighting through a seed that did not pull a lot of punches, especially in Volcano, and managing to pull out the win just under the wire.
Yeah, I felt like it was pretty shaky early because Volcano was largely a no-go because of a lot of fire threes in there. And I kind of forced that ribbon out of the fire elemental chests up there because I knew I wanted that. I had Thor, and I wanted my white mage to have something to do for when I went to ice. And luckily Floater was there, and then I just went around and got some loot and felt good about it and started Volcano, and the rest is history, I guess.
I didn't find anything good for... I think the first, like, useful thing I found was the ribbon and Earth.
There was a ribbon and Earth?
Yeah, behind the vampire.
Oh yeah, that one, sorry. Yeah, the one chest I probably leave.
That's the only ribbon I found. Like, I found defense and dragon armor, but like I was telling you in in the Merc chat after. Obviously, we knew that Tail was in Ordeals, like if you went to Ice Cave first. Like, I knew Tail was there. So I was like, I'm going to avoid that to save time. But because of the Vorpal, the Dragon Armor, it's like, I had to go there. It was, like, required pretty much.
Yeah, like, unless you were to get lucky and find Massa or something, you were pretty much going to have a really bad time.
Yeah, I was pretty salty. I'm glad I didn't have my mic on. I was pretty salty after getting wiped a couple times in Volcano. And then I forgot to translate Slab because I wasn't really focused on that. I just kind of wasn't focused for a big chunk of that.
Yeah, Volcano definitely was a rough one.
ArsonHorse, did you get to catch what all the bulls were packing this seed?
I got lucky, and I ran from the couple I saw. So I don't think I faced their fury.
Bulls had Stun, Sleep, and Lit 3, I believe it is.
I think they had two lits, that 3 spells. Like, I think I had 5-3 too. I could be wrong. There was a lot of things that had, like, I kill you now. So, but Bulls definitely were like, and me with no ribbon was just like, because I had to go get that Vorpal, right? And at first, when I first went into Volcano, Katana was right beside it, so I was like, oh, I could sell it and maybe get like a gold bracelet or something out of it.
Yeah, it sold for 60k, so it would have been worth.
Yeah, and everything about the seed was just horrible. Like, the layout was really bad. If you wanted to go and do the crown quest, like, you had to like trek back. I didn't buy enough tents at first, so I ended up doing the crown quest before going to Ice Cave because I was low on tents. That's the only reason why I did it.
Yeah.
So Elfland, I had to get to Elfland to restock at the very least, right?
Yep.
But yeah, everything was bad. One thing I did learn about the seed though is I didn't realize that Crescent Lake had 2 different, like, there was a line where there's different encounters.
Yeah, there is. I
didn't know that
last week.
So so if you powered off in Crescent, if you'd go west, you'd fight like cobras and scorpions, and if you went straight south, you'd fight peats.
If I'm not mistaken, it's actually 4 zones that hit right around there, up just to the southeast of the lake.
Yep. I really need to learn the inner workings of this game.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure people in chat were laughing internally when I was trying to break things futilely, because I don't know what I can break. I just kind of was guessing.
Okay.
Oh.
the black stats on Kraken 2 got everyone so happy. You have no idea.
So, yeah,
I was floundering a little bit.
So,
admittedly.
Yeah, Kraken 2 had me on the ropes. Everybody was super low. I had, I think, 1 life 2 charge left, maybe.
Yeah.
And one of my guys was dead, and I just threw like a Hail Mary break, and it worked. So that was cool.
It's awesome.
But so you saying that I had 1 orb lit when Arson was going into Temple of Fiends?
For the first time.
Correct.
When you got to... Go on.
I was going to ask, was there something in Temple of Fiends I didn't see?
Well,
or did I just get really lucky?
Well, what happened
The nuke... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the nuke on Kraken 2 dropped everyone but ArsonHorse's Knight, and he YOLO'd through to Chaos and wiped at Chaos.
Chaos got 2 critical hits on him to get through the defense build-up.
Oh yeah,
he felt pretty bad.
He got 1 crit on me after I had the defense build up, but I got nucleared by Lich.
Oh, I got that the first time.
I got nuked by Kraken, and I got... It seemed like every time I'd get either nuked or I got hit, it would knock my... whoever it hit down to like 20 hit points, but didn't really kill them. So there was a lot of factors that helped me not wiping in Temple of Fiends, but it was all for naught because you sniped me there.
5 seconds.
If it makes you feel any better, when you got to Temple of Fiends, Brott, that was when ArsonHorse was starting his 2nd dive. Y'all were basically synced heading through the plate after Phantom.
Okay. So you know what actually cost me the game? Like obviously there's a bunch of variables here, but what cost me the game was me checking the free chests in Phantom because it got me a cabin which moved my heal potions. So I had to do 2 movements to use a heal potion.
Yeah, I was doing that both times because I was dumb and didn't clear my cabins. So
It's amazing how a little thing like that can really cost you time.
Like obviously there's a bunch of variables, like I said. Like you could say, well, if I didn't wipe the first time, I would have beat you by like 10 minutes, right?
yeah,
But it's just funny
So
how
it's-
the little you think back to the little things.
it is the
Right.
little things. Every time you warped out of somewhere to save some time, or ran from an encounter, or got lucky one-shotting enemies that would have otherwise gone through like 9 iterations of hitting your party with 4 things.
You know?
Okay,
Absolutely.
Little things.
speaking of luck, how did both of you feel finding the defense and power gauntlet on that first floor of Sky Castle? Because I don't think I see a lot of people checking those chests, especially when, you know, they more or less have everything they need, not necessarily want.
My thought was my levels were a little low, and I'm like, I still need to loot some things, and Sky Temple's got decent gear, so might as well take some fights that are worth decent XP and maybe get lucky and find a couple things I need, and I did. And then at that point, I'm like, yeah, I feel pretty good about getting this done, because otherwise it was tempers and fast, and you know how nukes can be. So
Yeah, well, with this seed, like we had okay magic for sure, but it wasn't
Definitely.
it wasn't fade or nuke early. And when that happens, you kind of hope that fast hits early, and it didn't hit early, so you kind of had to manage that. I wasn't very high level. I was like 1920 or something
geez,
when
I was
when I went into
22.
Temple of Fiends. Well, a big part of that was I figured I was very, very behind. Because I just stupid mistakes like not translating the slab. Like I don't remember the last time I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And the wipes and Volcano twice, and it just seemed very slow. Like going across the world twice to do the crown quest, all that stuff. And I just thought, you know, when I got the defense sword and the power bonk, I was like, okay, well at least I have the means to
End it.
end it, right? So I had
Yeah.
to like just kind of say, you know what, I'm gonna go in Temple of Fiends. If I get wiped, if there's something OP in there, I'll just go and level somewhere. But I
Yeah.
had to take the chance first. And I figured that all the other mobs had everything, so the mobs in Temple of Fiends can't have that much.
Yeah, they were pretty forgiving from what I encountered.
Pretty tame. I don't think there was any unrunnables.
There was Fighter Mage on the 2nd floor.
Oh,
But that was it, I think.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I took a few encounters because I was like you said, 19 going in my first dive, and like got a couple gas stees and stuff. So I took a few encounters to get a couple levels because, you know, the EXP is nuts. So
Yeah,
then I went in for real, and Chaos double crit me. And then I was like, all right, if I get good luck, I think this is not a problem. And it worked out. So
yeah, absolutely. No, it was a good game. I'd just like to thank Speed Gaming. This was this matchup kind of came up today, and they were more than generous in setting this up to let us use Speed Gaming 4 for this race. So shout out to them. Thank you very much. And for the commentators in such short notice, we also appreciate that, and obviously the viewers.
You guys rewarded us with an amazing match, so you know you don't have to thank us. We should be thanking you for putting on such a good show. So,
For real.
ArsonHorse, if I'm
Yes,
not
sir.
mistaken, this means you advanced the 2-0 bracket. Are you ready?
what's that? What's it entail besides facing someone who's 2-0?
Mostly facing someone who's 2-0 in a field that has a lot of very strong competitors.
Well, yeah, I'll just race my race, and if it works, that's great. If it doesn't, go back to the drawing board, learn some things, and get ready for 2-1. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Brottster, you're heading to 1-1
By 5
but-
seconds.
Yeah.
Nuts.
I have to say, I would not be looking forward to being in 1-1 after the performance that you put on here, especially the making as many mistakes as you did and still managing to almost sniped this race away from someone who, played a very solid game the whole way through.
It happens. It's part of this game is not only just the luck factor. Like, if I go into Volcano and you go into Air and you find everything and I find nothing, right? Besides that, there's also a level of competency where you have to make sure you don't forget basic stuff, and for whatever reason I don't know, just forgot. But with that being said, it happens. Just try to improve and not do it again, right?
Yeah. Put a poster of Dr. Una above your computer just so you make absolute certain you remember he's there, and I think you'll probably be in good shape.
Yeah, I should probably do that.
All right, so Tila, you have any thoughts?
I don't know. I'm still just blown away by the race. Both of you put on an amazing show for us. Yeah, congratulations to you, ArsonHorse, on making it to 2-0.
Yeah, thanks, and good game again, Brottster. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, man, we'll have to play. We'll have to do a rematch.
Yeah, sometime.
All right. If someone can post a link to the Discord in chat, that would be awesome. If anyone's interested in learning how to play, there's a beginner tab in the Discord channel. Any questions? Everyone's more than happy to answer. When I first started last year, it was at like 2 a.m, and Sho taught me how to use Merc, and he was really helpful. And it was like I said, it was like 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. my time when we did that. So people are usually on and up for races. So check it out.
Yeah, and if you want more Final Fantasy Randomizer action, Speed Gaming Prime right now has Ich Maya and High Spirits going head-to-head with Edgeworth and Sho Fukamachi doing the commentary, and that is going to be an entertaining watch. I'm probably going to head over there as soon as we wrap up here. So, in addition to that, Brottster, ArsonHorse, y'all have any final thoughts before we sign off?
Just good luck, Arson, 2-0, and you're playing extremely well. For my understanding, that you're just one of the relatively new runners. I don't know. I don't play that much anymore, but that's you're doing pretty good for if that's the case, for sure. So good luck.
Thanks
to you.
a lot. Yeah, good luck to you. Things, like you said, would have broke a little differently. Might have been 5 seconds the other way, but yeah, I think we both had some things we'd like back, but
I'd rather lose by 5 seconds than win by an hour. So I much prefer this. It's
Fair
more
enough.
entertaining. More entertaining.
Definitely, it was crazy.
All right, well, with that, I'd like to thank everyone who's hung around for sticking around. Feel free to go check out our peers over on Speed Gaming 1, Speed Gaming Prime. Thanks again to the Speed Gaming crew for having us here. Thanks to our tracker, Most Mogwai, for, keeping us honest, keeping track of everything. And, thanks to the runners for putting on a fantastic show. And we'll see you guys next time around. Take care, everyone.